Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. This random review is a little bit different in the fact it's a TV show, even though it has filmic roots, and it is the Hammer House of Horror, the complete series, which is a 3-disc Blu-ray Region B released from Network Releasing. So it's 13 episodes. These aired in the early 80s, and they certainly have the look of the early 80s. As far as the special features, there's not a lot. One of the episodes, Guardians of the Abyss, is in widescreen. That's a special feature. It's got the commercial break stings, which is essentially just the little card and the bit of music that goes into a commercial break and back out of a commercial break. And there's an opening montage, raw takes of one of the episode's openings. There are subtitles and an image gallery, but it's a bare bones release of the show, but it really has had a nice high definition upgrade. The discs, so it's 13 episodes over 3 discs. It's really such an enjoyable little series. Obviously, if you're fans of Hammer horror or the Amicus portmanteau films, like Tales from the Crypt or Vault of Horror, or Torture Garden. You know, it's similar to Tales of the Unexpected, The Twilight Zone, short films, about 45 to 50 minutes, with a sting in the tail that has a fairly macabre subject matter and ending. There's a lot of familiar faces. For example, if you ever wanted to see Brian Cox and Peter Cushing working together, one of the episodes is an absolute treat for you. I'm just going to go through each episode and give you a brief synopsis, but I will have to read from the insert to just remind myself. Some of them, they're all good, I would say, but some of them are really stand out. The first one's called Witching Time, which stars Patricia Quinn, who's more famous for her role as Magenta in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And this is about a woman who turns up in a barn in a farmhouse claiming to be a witch from the 17th century who was burned and terrorises the couple therein. And, well, slightly spoil the ending in the sense of what makes this series kind of interesting is the fact that endings aren't really upbeat or cheery. There's not a lot of we've had a scare, we've had a terrible time, but everything's okay now. But this one's the exception. The next is a really creepy little film called The 13th Reunion, which is about a female reporter in a paper. You can tell it's 1980, they still like papers. But she does like fluff pieces for women's stories. But she uncovers something strange going on in the local mortuary, which is linked to a health farm. I'm not going to say anything more about it apart from it's one of the best episodes. Because, a lot of these stories you can kind of figure out the ending, you can figure out the twist, but some of them still have surprises, and the kind of twist in the 13th reunion doesn't actually get revealed until fairly late in the episode, and it is quite dark, because we can look, what's that now, 40 years later at these stories, and because they've all pretty much been done before to some extent in the same kind of, reboots of the Twilight Zone and all these horror anthologies that have been made since. But in 1980, perhaps they would be more surprising, especially to like an ITV commercial channel audience. I mean, I remember Tales from the Unexpected. I didn't remember actually seeing any of these, but I was maybe too young even back then to actually watch them. The next one is one of the standouts. It's Rude Awakening, and this stars the wonderful Denham Elliott, who's just fantastic as he always is. Is there a more dependable actor in film history than Denham Elliott? Answers in a postcard. But he is actually playing something a little bit against type. He's this sleazy estate agent who is perhaps having an affair with his secretary. He wants a divorce from his wife, and he keeps waking up. He keeps getting told about this house that's for sale, and strange things keep happening to him when he goes to the house, and then it cuts to him waking up, and it then cuts to him going back to the office. His secretary is like in another outfit. It's kind of the mixture between reality and fantasy. His fantasy of who his secretary is compared to the reality of who his secretary is. Very much like him, we don't know what's reality and what's fantasy. His performance is really good as he starts off as being this confident, everything's going his way. He's having an affair with this obviously a lot younger woman than he is. But then he keeps getting woken up. Bad things keep happening to him. His grip on reality kind of keeps slipping. And Denham Elliott's really good at showing a character who's slowly losing his grip on reality every time until the denouement, which is fantastic. So that's certainly one of the best ones. Then the next one is a strange little one called Growing Pains, which is about a scientist and his wife who lose their son as a result of one of his experiments to strangely grow this strange vegetable, this strange additive to create protein that will feed the world. They adopt another son who is very strange and acts very strangely. There's stuff about possession and killer dogs and stuff. It's really quite weird and creepy. The next one is The House That Bled to Death, which, as you can kind of imagine, it's a bit of a riff on the Amityville horror, but set in kind of suburban northern England, which is highly enjoyable and again has a nice little twist. Again, nowadays you could perhaps guess, but it does still let you kind of buy into it, and it's an enjoyable thrill ride with wonderful set pieces. The next is Charlie Boy, which again is one of the best episodes, which is about voodoo and this strange carving that this couple buy, and it turns out it has voodoo properties that can kill somebody you want to kill, but of course it gets out of hand. But this one is worth seeing because Marius Goring is in it, that stalwart of Powell and Pressburger films. Obviously he's an older gentleman in this, but as usual he gives top value as antiques dealer. I was actually amazed when I saw him and actually saw that is Maris Goring. He's just older and greyer. But this is a brilliant episode as well. And the next is another wonderful episode, and there's like 3 or 4 of the episodes in here that are worth buying the set just for this. It's the Silent Scream even. And this is the one that has Brian Cox opposite Peter Cushing. Obviously a younger Brian Cox and an older Peter Cushing. But it's jaw-dropping watching the two of them work. Brian Cox is an ex-con who comes out of prison, and Peter Cushing is the old concentration camp survivor who has talked to him in prison and kind of corresponded with him in prison, given him money to help support him. He's offered him a job in his pet shop. But there's obviously a darker purpose, which I'm not going to go into. But it's just a fantastic episode. Great performances by the pair of them. And it's almost worth buying the set just for this episode. Next is Children of the Full Moon, which to nobody's surprise is about werewolves, but it's an interesting riff on werewolves because obviously it's also about children, but that's a fun one. Then we have the grand title Carpathian Eagle, starring Suzanne Danielle, who is fairly spectacular in this, and a very young Pierce Brosnan. This must have been, I don't know whether it's before the Long Good Friday or after the Long Good Friday. They're both 1980. So it's quite startling to see Pierce Brosnan. And again, that's about a serial killer who's cutting the hearts out of men. And it could be linked to an old legend from the Carpathian Mountains. So that one's a lot of fun as well. Then we have Guardian of the Abyss, which is the episode that also in the special features is a widescreen version, which again is another cracker. It's about a haunted mirror that is needed in a ritual to bring forth a demon. So this cult is after it, after this couple kind of find it in an auction. I was going to say jumbo sale. I think it was a jumbo sale, that's what. And this stars Paul Darrow from Blake Seven fame, for all you British science fiction, TV science fiction fans. This one's really good as well. And then we have Visitor from the Grave, which again is a fun one, about a woman who kills somebody who comes into her house who's trying to attack and rape her. It's a colleague of her husband, and she keeps seeing him appearing in the street, and she seems to be going more and more mad. It also stars Simon McCorkindale, old Manimal himself, as the husband, and again that's a lot of fun. Again, you can perhaps guess what the twist is, but it's a lot of fun. The next one is The Two Faces of Evil, about a family who are terrorised by a man in a yellow Mac, kind of the adult version of The Little Kid in Don't Look Now. But they have an accident when they pick him up for some reason and give him a lift. And again, this is a doppelganger story. Again, you can probably guess where it's going, but it's just a lot of fun. And then the last one is The Mark of Satan, which is again another fun episode about a man who keeps seeing the number 9 and recurring the number 9 and believes he's possessed, so he ends up boring a hole in his brain with a drill. and because there's some virus that is evil that's possessing him, and then a mortuary attendant who's working and discovers the case. He seems to be catching the virus as well and is obsessed with the number 9. Goes to see a priest, and the priest says, well, it's actually, 3 sixes is the mark of Satan, but of course 3 sixes is just the 9s backwards. Again, that's a lot of fun. And that's it, 13 episodes with 45 minutes each. Again, you'll have your favourites, you'll have ones that you don't really care for, but overall the quality is really good. Obviously they're made in the 80s, they kind of look like they're made in the 80s, but if you're fans of this kind of thing, if you're the fans of 80s kind of Tales of the Unexpected, Amicus stuff, it's just so much fun. There's a lot of familiar faces that you'll recognise, obviously most of them a lot younger than they are now, but there's some standout episodes. I mean, I think you can pick up relatively cheaply, under 20 quid now I think, but for me the Peter Cushing, Brian Cox one is almost worth the price of admission, I was going to say, but the satanic cults, serial killers, werewolves, possession, it's just a lot of fun, and the prints are really good, and I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of this kind of stuff. 13 Tales of Terror. I mean, most of the time they're just quite creepy, but there's much pleasure to be had. So thanks very much for watching. Let me know if you've seen any of the episodes of the Hammer House of Horror, and hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying thanks very much.